I'm changing that song. That was ridiculous. All right, let me get organized here. All right. Let's see if I can get this going here. All right. So, gotta get some stuff going here. If anybody wants to hang out with me, do a little bit of Linux stuff, Linux adjacent type things, let me know. I'm going to be kind of hanging out here. Let's see if I can get this new version of the book previewed up here. Quartz1, thanks for the resubscription. Thanks for the lurk. I appreciate it. We're going to generate a new preview of the book. We're going to go through it, see where any edits are, see if there's any things that we need to fix or work on. I think we got probably everything captured, but I'm just gonna give it one last college try, give it one last check, make sure if there's anything that's not clear in kind of what we updated that it's there, and then we'll try to push a publish tonight if we can. Yeah, Colchis, thanks for the lurk. You guys are welcome to kind of hang out with me. I also think it's kind of cool, the little Linux penguin on my shirt, because he's green, kind of makes a cool little effect of the screen behind him, the little letters moving behind his. He is made in ASCII art as well, my little Linux penguin here. So, all right, let's see if we got that download. Where's that at? Let's go check. Go look in downloads. Oh, it just generates. I have to actually go download the PDF. Let's go get the most recent version of it. Yep, so that's today. Good. And then here we go. And we'll open with Chrome. So we'll let the Chrome flow here. All right, so here's all the things that we already have going on in the lab, right? Like these are the things that we kind of have worked on or updated. So let's go look at our package managers section. It says given Linux, find, update, and remove software. Given a bash prompt, execute. Just making sure there's no obvious errors. All right. We see all that stuff. Don't have any digging deeper, that's fine. We do need to check the lab link though. So we need to open that in a new tab and make sure that that takes us to the right lab, right? Make sure that we get on there. Uh-oh. That does not seem to have taken us to the right lab link. Package managers. Open link in new tab. Huh. Well. That takes us right in. So, if that's busted somewhere, how's that busted? That's the question, right? That's the $1 million question. Why would that be? Is there a break in that? Oh, well, there's no H in it. Well, that'll help. That's why we check. That's why we check. All right, so that's better. We'll fix that. We'll say that that's good. All those things are good. I think the formatting looks fine. Let's come back. Oops, let's get rid of that. All right, looks fine. Yeah, so that's a failure right there. All right, let's go to 108. Scroll down to 108. Oh, if anybody's got any questions or anything, just let me know. If you got any questions about Linux or systems in general, I will try to answer any questions I can. Kafka Loki, that one looks like it's right. It's taking us to the right spot. Okay, let's go look for errors. Message Loki. What number the zookeeper's listening on? Wonder why those are backed out so much. Let's go down to 108. It's weird that those aren't indented correctly. They look like they should be. There you go. Hey, Chris Jackson over on the YouTube side. How's it going? We are not working super hard right now. We're just kind of going through the lab book, and I'm making sure that everything looks like it's good before I do a final publish of it. When I publish it, it goes live to everybody that's ever bought the book before, so I don't like making mistakes in it. So I'm just kind of making sure that everything looks good. So it says review this document, and I'm probably going to do this to it. So right, because then it'll be document, then there'll be the doc, and it'll link there. So then we'll have that, and that'll be saved. Okay, page 14. Okay, okay, that's fine. That looks good. Make sure there's no little errors in here. I don't see anything that looks like it's too problematic. Okay. This is what it actually looks like. I don't like the way the numbering's set, but that's fine. We'll leave it like that for now. I guess I could try to double indent it and see if that fixes it. It is just markdown, so I should be able to do some spacing stuff with it. But that's fine for now. Let's look at our fail to ban. Head into your monitoring solution. Let's make sure this works. Our lab link. Going to the right one. Failed to ban. Sure, sure. Got it. Give bash prompt. Hey, can you test that? Can you ban? Okay. Metric alerting. Failed to ban. Make sure that the lab link works. Yeah, Julius, that's what it, yeah, markdown is what we use for editing text a lot of the times, yeah. All right, fail to ban works, so this lab works as far as going in. All right, I don't like what this is doing, so I gotta figure this out. Change that query to look for that. So that I down here. We could just make that C like that. That'll be fine. Yeah, that'll be fine. Dig deeper. Webhooks may find an AI. Okay. Let's go and look at it over here. Okay. Do you recommend RHCE EX200 to continue? Code reader, I think that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of people doing like whatever's the next thing for them. Like if the next step to get into like Linux administration is getting a Red Hat cert, I think that that's great. If the next thing for a lot of people is like getting a security cert or getting a Network Plus or something like that, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, if you want to get into Linux, the Red Hat certs are a great way to get in there. I don't think they're necessary, but I think that they are good. They are sometimes valuable for like government projects and stuff because sometimes they need an RHCE or something like that for a contract. But I mean that's less common now than it used to be. So I don't think you need it, but I think it's an excellent thing to study and get ready for. We have quite a few people in our Discord that are working on that, so it's kind of a good place to go and find other people doing similar stuff to you. So all right, so what's our next one here? We have to jump down to 209, which is the OS STIG remediation. Let's jump down to 209 over here. Oh, and you guys can do an oh, you know, I gotta get rid of this. You guys can do an exclamation mark ask if you need to ask me anything, and it'll alert me that you guys are asking me questions. And that should work on either side. So whether you're on Twitch or YouTube, it should still tell you, or it should still let me know. STIG remediation 209. See, the alignments are correct in this one, so I want to go see how that's written. Oh, wait, no, that's a line there. Let's go look. We gotta go read in the actual doc. This is the doc that's being published, so we gotta see how 209 looks. Yeah, that's all right. Huh. All right, that's the STIG remediation one. Okay. I'm okay with that. Oh, Inspector. Yeah, I haven't used the RT-Netlink API before, but yeah, it sounds like you're trying to do some real low-level stuff. So that's it's probably got some. There's probably some good stuff going on in there. I don't mess around that low too often. Sometimes when we're first tuning out a cluster, we'll be down at the behaviors of the networking interconnections, but for the most part, I don't have to mess around down there too often. Let's look at this one. Let's make sure building a bastion host is properly linked. Yep. Okay. It's gonna come up. Okay. Yep. It tells you to build bastion host. Set up, log in. What are the 5 special block devices? Okay. Okay. What are the 4 use cases that we give you, and can you fix them all? So there you go. Just don't want to name your interfaces. I want the kernel name. Well, so Inspector, you should be able to set that in, was it like Etsy udev rules or something like that? You can, so the kernel will have its default names, but you can change all those behaviors and stuff. But you should be able to, do that. I mean, that's not even that. I mean, that's not even as low level as looking at the actual APIs down at the at the kernel layer. You should be able to interface with those at Etsy. Hold on, I'm not connected in my home lab. I was using. You guys know I have that one government connection that I do, and when I'm in that one government connection, it's to the detriment of all other things in my home lab. Like it completely locks me down. So let me see. Yeah, rules.d. And here should be able to, at least in Red Hat systems. I don't know about all the other stuff you guys might be running into. Yeah. I'll use like the rules in here in Etsy udev rules.d. I'll set rules in here that sets everything to like ETH0, because my standard, I mean, ever since, God, as far back as I can remember, I used ETH0. And then for a while, some clusters wanted to use like ENS0 or ENSO or what, I don't know what the hell that was. I never got into that. Like I always thought that was a little weird. If I'm given my way, I'll always name them ETH0 and ETH1 and then, enumerate up. Because it's easy for me to look at. So I thought we had. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, 210 Building Bastion. Let me go through a few more of these and just make sure there's nothing ridiculously broken. That looks like that's going to our security setup. Nice. Setup. Set TLS and configure RSys log on 6514. Good. Yeah, all right, that looks good. Read the solving the bottom turtle. Okay. Ah, that's gonna jump me back to the top. I knew it. Didn't want to jump back to the top. Let's go back in here. We are building Bastion. TLS. All right, let's look at the troubleshooting with LSOF. We added this one. Let's make sure that link works. We're just checking everything, guys. We're just checking. I'm gonna push an update to the book, and when it does, it'll send it to everybody that's ever bought it. So I just want to make it not even using UDev. Sometimes using MDev. Oh, nice. Okay, I've never used MDevD or whatever that is. I've never even heard of that. Let's see. Okay, that's good. And then we added an Ansible 102. Ah, I gotta update my pictures. See? This is why we come back and do this, guys. I have to update my pictures. Okay, that's important. I gotta do that. Let's go look at this image, or 102, real quick, which will be down near the bottom of this. We're almost there. We're almost there. 102. Enterprise Ansible patching. Let's make sure our lab works. Oh, I got my other scenario open. That's my fault. Yeah, you can only start so many scenarios at a time. This doc. That is not the right page, apparently. Oh. That's not good. Okay. Okay. All right, that's the HPC deploy. That's good. Okay. So that one's good. All right, so I need to go update my... It's going to get bright for a second. I can't really help that. I don't even know if these are going to be recent or if I'm going to have to... I don't think these are even in my recents anymore. Let's go to... I think it's under... I think it's called book something. ProLUG. No, this is the home lab. That's an old drawing of the home lab right there. But that's not the bright thing I was going to show you guys. I have let's see if we can open a file. shoot, I have... Oh, at least it got me into here. I don't know. I don't know what we called this one. Probably something book. Ah, here we go. All right. Good, good, good. So this is our Ansible. So we can make this one a little bigger. And then that can have and I think this is its own. Yeah. Okay. And then this one, man, I got a few to add to this one. So I got a few of them to add to this. So we're gonna go find what they are. Let's go up here. So yeah, get those over here out of the way. First one was package managers. Package managers, that was added. There was a 108, which was Kafka to Loki logging. Then we did fail to ban with log monitoring. We had failed to ban with electric, or failed to ban with metric alerting, not electric. Then we had STIG remediations, which is different than these because it was and that was with Ansible, in fact. Showed you how to do that. Building a Bastion host, we did that. Setting up TLS. And then we had a troubleshooting with LSOF, but I'm not going to put that in the list of these. I'm not super worried about that. If anybody's wondering, yes, this is how I update these. It's how I update the drawings right here. I don't know if I'm missing anything. Yeah, that we should be good. All right. So, where do we put these? I think I was putting these directly in. I don't know exactly what the name of them were, but if I were to pull that up, I bet it's in Linux group. I bet it's in streaming. It's probably something to do with images. Probably something like book images, no? Well, if it's not there, I have no idea where it is. Screw it. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go find the names of them, which are here. Resources. So Linux_labs PNG and Ansible _labs.png. Perfect. Perfectly easy to upload then. All right, so let's go grab Linux_labs capital And Ansible_labs capital. Perfect. Too easy, guys. All right. Grab our little best tool that probably Microsoft ever put together is this little snipping tool. So we're going to grab that. We're going to file, save as. We just hit save since it doesn't have a name yet. And we'll go through this. We're going to just go through this right in downloads. And we're going to call it Linux Labs. Ah, that's where it existed. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to go Linux_labs 2. Perfect. And then I'll go grab those later because I don't need those just hanging around in their own little spot like that. All right, now for this, we got to fit it on the screen so we can grab this one. That's probably fine right there. Okay, then we grab that one too. Can you guys see the screen when I do that? I imagine the screen goes dark when I do that. So, Ansible. Like I imagine like you can't see the screen. But I could be wrong. Ansible Labs 2.png. Perfect. All right. We'll Control S that and save that. We don't have anything else in here that's really super important for right now. Maybe some stuff that we were updating the other day when we were kind of messing around with stuff. Oops. Talking security a little bit. Okay, so we're going to go to this one, and this is going to get a new version of this. So we are going to... I think I need to just... I gotta upload a new file. And that's Ranger when he was like 3 weeks old right there, by the way. In case anybody was wondering. Let's go with Linux Labs 2. And then also, man, jeez. Could they make that any more difficult right there? All right, let's upload that. So we'll have Linux Labs 2. And then let's upload our Linux Labs 1. Or Ansible Labs 2, rather. And then we're going to go drop those in the named places of the course. So on the manuscript, the first one is now Linux Labs 2.png. Where's Ansible? Ansible's pretty far down here. Ansible Labs 2. Is that right? Ansible Labs. Yep. Okay. So, if all those are right, we should be able to generate a new preview of the book. Now, I can only do that so many times in a month, but I don't plan on doing it that many times. Like, I think it's like 20 times in a month I can do that or something. And I'm not going to be doing that many this month, just these ones to publish this. So, generating the preview, doing all that stuff, and then we'll get the version of it. Should drop me back in the print page when it's done. I'm going to close this, and I am going to delete that version. Downloads. So now we're going to download the most recent version of the book, reopen it, and then see what this kind of looks like here. Boom. Open with Google Chrome. All right, there's the labs. So let's go check to make sure that those things that were broken are now fixed. Mainly starting in, first one should be package managers. So lab link should be right now. Which takes us to the right. Yep. Because that lab link was busted. Good. Let's go to the very top of this. Let's make sure that our image is correct. Our image is not correct. Okay, come back over here and look at that. Why is our image not correct? Linux underscore 2. I don't see. Oh, file formats, man. Those stupid upper and lowercase names. Silliness. I don't know why they were. Silliness. I'd be willing to bet this is also lowercase now too. And then also still busted. What the hell's this Ansible at? Dumb. Dumb. Super dumb. Dumbest thing ever. Alright, well, like I said, I'm not going to be printing a whole bunch of them, but apparently we're going to print a few because of upper and lowercase PNG. I would have never thought PNG was going to be upper or lowercase between the formats, but apparently. I mean, I get why it matters, but I just... Who would have thought that it would have ever been all uppercase like that? Like, who uppercases anything like that? Yeah, what can you do? All right, we're going to let it regenerate, pull it down. Maybe we will be pushing 20 by the end of the month. Now we'll see. I'm going to delete that original one because I don't like them to just keep enumerating on my machine. Go download that new one. That'll pop up over here. We'll open that. We'll go. If anybody's got any questions about anything, what we're doing, or any of that kind of stuff, let me know. Let's go look. Image looks correct. Got the right stuff in it. Good. That's all the things we needed. Let's go check our Ansible section. I'm okay with that being on its next page. That's fine. And that's got Enterprise Ansible patching. Okay. All right. Gotta check everything again. This is the tedium of it, right? Sometimes when we're writing stuff or doing stuff, it is not all fun and games. Pull this back over here for now. Sometimes it's tedium. Package managers look right. Page is probably correct. Okay, that's right. Scroll down to 108 again. Got a Loki login. Again, I'm not super in love with the numbering like that, but I'm less concerned with that since it's just kind of a notepad for people. I'm more concerned with this. Okay, there's the Kafka into Loki, and then reading it out with, what do we use? Do we use Telegraph with that? Yeah. Deploy Kafka and then send messages over to Loki. Yep. What tool did we use for that? I don't even remember. We did this in the course. We used Promtail to consume the messages. So Promtail can pull out a Kafka. Okay. So this was what when we were doing the security engineering course, this is what we used to build that all out. I don't always remember what I did last week, so that's why my documentation has to be pretty okay. So yeah, we were sending messages into Kafka, pulling them out, and then we were pretending that Loki infrastructure was already there in our company, and we were working this new process into it. Some people don't like Kafka. I'm not sure why people don't like it. I don't know if it's just because it's like this newfangled thing that's like all cloudy and people want to shake their fists at clouds or something. I don't know. I know a lot of Linux guys that are like not super impressed with Kafka, but I think it's excellent. Honestly, if you guys really want to know what I think of why those guys don't like Kafka, is because we got it as part of this tool from Cray originally called Shasta, and it was not enterprise ready. It was not like ready to go in like real government systems and stuff, and that was a lot of people's first stepping into Kafka, and I think that's why so many of the guys that I know don't like it. It wasn't Kafka's fault. It was the implementation of Kafka that was at fault. And I didn't have any problems with it, so I thought it was fine. We were using Kafka to catch all the logs out of servers, and then we were using Elasticsearch to pull out of Kafka and feed up to Kibana as like our front end. And that was their design. We just made it work for ourselves, right? So there's that kind of stuff. Yeah, Chris, I don't know. I mean, I don't... For people that are like... There's a whole philosophy in engineering, guys. This kind of steps away from operations, but it's like very heavily engineering, where API first is everything, right? Everything is call an API, use an API, drive things through an API. Don't talk directly to me, query my API, which should have good information. And this API first driven companies, like the one that I know that's really popular and really big is AWS, right? Amazon, even before AWS was around, Amazon was an API first company. That was one of their philosophies, right? Well, Kafka helps enable that because it does this thing called like event-driven architecture. I always think of Kafka or any of my message buses, because you have message buses out in the cloud. I always think of it as a like a subway, like a little subway, and you can get on and you can get off, and you can check who's on the subway at any time. Obviously, they're going by fast, but you could see who was on there, and there's a lot of stuff that can happen with this, and it's very cloud-focused, event-driven architecture, but Kafka helps enable that, right? In AWS, it's called MSK, Managed Services for Kafka, but us just running it, our poor man one. We have one of these. We have a couple of these actually running in the home lab, in ProLUG Lab. We have a couple Kafka things just running out there. But in this lab, you build it. So okay, so that was that, and I thought that was kind of a fun little one. I really liked building some of these labs out when we were doing the security engineering course. Which, by the way, to plug the free course, because the course is free, you guys can start that anytime. It's up on the it's up in the Discord. You only get the certificate if you do it with us, and we're probably going to start the security engineering course again. I think I'm going to start running it again in September, that one. I don't think we're going to run the Linux one again, because, not this year anyways, because the Linux one had, we had like 140 people say they're coming, and only I think one person's participating in it right now, so it's dead, right? Like, nobody's doing it. People are still showing up. Don't get me wrong, like 20, 30 people show up, but I don't consider anybody in that course unless they're doing the discussions. And you might go, oh man, you sound like an asshole college professor. Well, we built the course a certain way, and if people don't want to do the course, No, I don't. I'm not gonna make anybody do anything, right? Like people do whatever the hell they want. I don't care. But I just, if you're gonna do the course as one of our people and then get the certificate that goes along with it, you've got to do it the way that everybody else had to do it, right? Also, I think people undervalue writing things out. And anyways, I don't care. I'm not anybody's college professor here, so my students, they get to write, but you know, you guys can't make anybody do anything. All right, so let's do this. Let's keep going. Failed to ban. Failed to ban's working. Let's go tie that into what we're doing here. So that's failed to ban. 109 and 110. Just make sure there's no major errors. I don't see any intrusion detection, intrusion preventions. Banned to 20. Can you set that? Can you test? Okay. Okay. I think that's all fine. Again, the formatting didn't copy great, so that's fine. That's not that big a deal. Okay, we got all that. That's all fine. All right, let's pull this back up. 110, 206. All right, we gotta go 206. Stig remediation, do a little bit of Ansibles, go around and look at the Ubuntu. Now, yeah, that's the only one that was still available, but there should be a newer one coming out soon, and maybe we'll have to update that lab. But for now, the book is correct. Let's go click on this and make sure this is correct. That's just a different lab if people wanted to go to it, okay? 210, building a bastion host. That's all good. TLS and R syslog. Set up all your certificate authorities and trust yourself, and then make sure that your devices can communicate over TLS. It's very important. Solving the bottom turtle. Does the NIST link work? Zero trust architecture. Huge. This is really big if you're going into the industry somewhere and people are going to ask you about zero trust. What's your familiarity with zero trust? Well, I've read the special publication on it and I understand what the implementations are doing. I understand how PKI interacts with that. That would probably be more than most managers could talk to anyways, so I'd say that's a bare minimum. But the Solving the Bottom Turtle book is really good too. One of our, I haven't seen Tawny in a while, but Tawny's one of the people that helped publish this, right? Helped write this. So it's free. Those are all free books out there on the web. All right, we got the troubleshooting with LSOF. Let's make sure that one's right. I should really white out the word "to" there. That's fine. I think that's all fine there. Automation, Ansible. This one looks good. Enterprise Ansible patching looks fine. And then the very last one at the bottom should be. Could you add your own role there? All right. I think that's I will invariably find more errors if I keep looking through it, but I think that that's a pretty good update for now. So what we'll do then is we'll go to, I think we can go to back here to the design, and we can go to the publish page, right? So now we can actually publish this and upload any of these other things that we want to. Last publish was quite a while ago, right? There's been quite some time since we've updated the book. And then notify the book. We'll notify them that the book's been updated while challenge yourself with new labs. So almost all the labs we added were directly related to the security course. So that's kind of good. And then we were already at 100% complete. But we are going to just go ahead and we're just going to republish the book now. So I'm going to hit publish. It'll go out. When that's done, anybody that's bought the book before will get an updated link for it, so you can download it, which I think is actually really cool about LeanPub is you can just download stuff. Anything you've ever bought, which if you guys don't know, the thing about LeanPub is you could start a book and then let everybody know, and they could be like, oh, that's kind of cool. This guy's doing a book. I have the book all done when I published it, and everybody could do it. However, since we could update it, that's what I chose to do, was just keep updating it. So this is all, I guess you would say, like bonus. I didn't really have anywhere else to put all this stuff, and I just was like, well, we'll just throw it in the book, and then if anybody wants it. For anybody that's wondering like about the book, you do not need the book to do the labs. The labs are all free on Killer Coda. The book is like, it's like a journal almost. It's like it's these questions over here. You just get a little more out of, like, the lab's going to make you do a thing, and then you can reflect a little more on what you did, and you can go spin off and spend some time studying. In fact, best way to put it, I think, is the way that I originally put it over here in the book. You know, maybe I think that it's, you know, there's the 10-minute labs where you just blast through them. There's like a 30-minute labs where you go through them and spend some time. And then you could do the labs in like 60 minutes and do the digging deeper sections and the reflection questions and all these other things and really spend some time with all of that. Understand the why of the system that you're working with. All right. That's kind of cool. I think that's going to pop up then soon. And some people, I think that may even pop up in my Gmail. I might say, let me check my phone real quick. So it's got my previews when I was previewing the book, and now it should come out. So that is kind of one of my favorite things about that, is that it doesn't, you know, nobody has to rebuy the book. It's just anybody that's ever bought anything you've bought on LeanPub. If you guys like, I remember I bought a Jeff Geerling book very early on, and I think it was even before COVID hit. And then as he published the book, I got all the updates for it. I also did that with, one of the guys was doing a Vault book on passing the Vault certification when I got my Vault associate from HashiCorp. And I remember that he was still publishing his book when I found him on YouTube, so I bought that book too. But anyways, the point is you can do all that stuff. All right, what are we doing then? If I did the one thing that I had kind of hopped on to do, what else could we do here? Well, we've got all this stuff going. We can check out what's going on in the lab. See if anything else useful is going on there. I don't think anything too big's going on out there. No important logs. Yeah. Nothing too wild going on. All right. Well, I guess I got to decide then, do I want to work on, we have some academic stuff we could do. I've been meaning to do some of that on stream. I was going to hop on last night, and then I got tired. And then also the in-laws, so my wife's parents, they had their air conditioning go out last night on them. So I don't know if any of you guys have ever lived in Phoenix, but when it's 108 outside, even at night, you can't be in a house when the AC. So their AC went out, and it went up to 90 in their house, and like that's a bit much. So they came over here. They kind of ended up staying over here. Chris, you said, do I know anything about DNS monitoring? Yeah, I mean, I do a fair amount in my own home lab, but that's not. I guess it depends if you're talking like the DNS traffic on your line. And if you're talking about that, then what I would use is I would use a tool like Zeek or something to and I think it's Zeek, bro, right? Zeek is a great monitor if you need it, if you want to track everything that's going in and out. So if you're looking for types of queries and where the queries are going and ensuring that things that you think that you're supposed to be talking to are talking the right way, that kind of stuff. And you're like, well, hey, all of my systems as of last night were all going to like 8.8.8.8. And now when they go out, they're all reaching out to this place over like in some Eastern Bloc European country or something. Yeah, you could definitely use Zeek for that kind of stuff. But I would tell you Zeek would probably just be feeding logs back to a tool like Splunk or anything else that you're going to just filter through and track things from. So you could, but yeah, Zeek is a tool most people use for that kind of stuff because it can do traffic in and out. It can actually just sit on a line. You can do one of two things. You can either mirror a port to it, which requires you to have control of your networking. If you don't have control of your networking or you guys don't know networking well, what you can do instead is you can put an inline device. The problem with an inline device is now traffic can only go through that at that device speed. So, you may be affecting network performance when you do something like an inline device. But those are things to think about. Yeah, going through your gateway, router, firewall. Yeah, so there's two things you would either have to do. You would either have to control that and port mirror and then track everything that's going through because Zeek would just be monitoring then, be acting as an intrusion detection in that point. Or it can be an inline device and you can actually have it physically sit between, well, physically or logically. Like in my home lab, some of you guys have seen this before. I got to reconnect everything because, reasons. Because every time I go to that government customer, they're like my main employer within my normal company. But it's still funny. They lock me in. So my C router device is the only device that has an interface on both the 192.168.11 and the 192.168.200 network. It's the only one. These devices all only have a networking connection on the internal lab network of 200. So when they want to go out, they have to go through this guy. There's no other router. There's no other thing routing traffic for them. They can't talk out. They can't talk through. So the C router would be an excellent place for me to set up Zeek if I wanted to track like all the traffic coming in and out of my systems and that kind of stuff. That's fair enough, Talisman. Yeah. Having your DNS resolved somewhere outside of the U.S. could possibly be more secure. I wouldn't disagree with that. From like a being monitored in every way sense, we are definitely monitored big time here in the U.S. Right? So, all right. So let's think about what we want to do then. Like we can do all kinds of stuff. Let me put that stuff back up. We got all the time in the world, right? What I had thought about doing today is we got the book updated. So let me go check to make sure when it published it should send it out to everybody. Let me see. Only a preview is okay. They should still have the original. They should still have the official one coming out. I've got a Kanban board that I really should just start using around like stuff that we can do when we don't really have anything to work on. Oh, couple housekeeping things to show you guys. Let me pull this up for the Discord. There's a Discord, right? We got a lot of stuff going on. We've got 4,000 something people in there. And, stuff's going on in there. One of the things I was going to tell you, though, is I'm going to be out of town from Thursday all the way through the next Friday. So I'm going to be out of town for like a week down in Mexico. I will still be on. I will still be able to get on Discord and that kind of stuff. But I probably won't be doing any streaming when I'm down there, unless somebody wants a beach stream in the morning or something. They want to watch the sunrise over the Gulf out there, but over in Cancun. So there's that. But anyways, we have a lot of events coming up. There's always study groups going on. People are always working through stuff. Zorgel's got a study group. Looks like that's on Wednesday night. There's the Bash study group every Saturday. You guys are always working on that. The Linux sysadmin course for this weekend will be, we'll probably call this one canceled because I can't get anybody to, well, I haven't gotten anybody to cover it for me. So it's in automation. So I have quite a few of the ProLUG engineers that could run it, but nobody's gotten back to me. So I'll probably cancel it for this weekend. And then we will still finish that course because that's only week 13. Wait, let me think. What week is that? Let's go look. That is, oh, we already did 13. So we just have 14, 15, and 16 left of the course. By the way, these courses are online. You can just go, you can go grab this book online right now if you wanted to, right? But we have 14, which will be automation, troubleshooting, and then incident response. So we're going to finish the course on, I won't be here the 12th. I will be here the 19th, the 26th, and the 2nd. So we'll finish on the 2nd of August. So I think that's a pretty good run for the course. And then we'll think about when the next set of courses are starting. We're definitely going to start a security engineering course again because people seem to like that course and seem to get pretty involved with that. That's this one right here. And that one is security engineering in a Linux sense, right? That is not, again, I even say in the course, like it's not aligned to like a Security Plus or a Net Plus or a CISSP. It's not aligned to any of those. It's just security for Linux in the enterprise. And then as we're doing it, we're learning HIPAA concepts and STIG concepts and CIS benchmark concepts, even though it's not focused on any of those either. It's showing you how to secure your Linux systems in all the ways mentioned here, right? Whoops, all the ways that we mentioned. Whoops, we don't want Zotero right now. You know, building out the system, securing the network, letting users on, locking the users down for how they can come in, keeping your system up to date, monitoring what's going on, monitoring and alerting, like sending information out of a closed system, configuration drift and keeping changes from happening that shouldn't happen, and then certificate and key madness, which is all the start of that zero trust stuff that we kind of do, right? I mean, you're going to touch that a lot if you're doing Linux engineering in this world now, so. I'm just catching up over on YouTube. That's funny. There's a girl at SeaWorld who throws fishes to the hungry seals. That's funny. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's think. What are we working on then? Oh, back to the Discord. So there's always events in Discord. Discord's free. If you do go in there, people get overwhelmed. People tell me all the time, hey, I'm overwhelmed in there. There's a little beginner start here section. Nobody can add anything to it. Only like me and the mods can. So it's very like lean down to just things that people see on stream here. And like if you're like, oh, I want to see that 16-week course, but I can't sit and watch it. Well, or I can't sit and watch you do it again. Well, there's stuff all online on how to do it, and you can get in there and do the labs and all that stuff like that too. So that's all. It's all for you guys there. I don't know what's going on there. All right, we'll check that stuff out later. All right. Well, then I got to figure out what I want to do in the. Do I want to build out the home lab? Do we want to build some stuff in? Do we want to build some more Killer Coda labs? Which would actually be funny if we started more Killer Coda labs, since I just updated the damn book for the actual book that has all of our labs. No, I have to cut it off at some point. That'll probably be the last real update to the book, and then everything else will probably just be through these other, because all these books right here are free and online, right? You guys can do everything you need to with these. They're just online and free. So I think that's a really cool project some of the guys put together for all our work. I think that's kind of a cool little thing. We could, let's go look at our notes. We could do Linux sysadmin stuff. I don't know if you guys want to do some real Linux admin stuff. We can look at some jobs And I don't even know what some of this stuff is. I think somebody was asking me something about, I think that's the Red Hat cert. Somebody was asking me about Red Hat. Now we'll do admin stuff. We'll do this here in a little bit. All right, but before we do that, it's been an hour, so let's take a break real quick. I'll turn off my little camera here, and I'll turn on my little hourglass. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask me, ask the chat. We could also set up our little tool. So take a break, and we'll do some security. We'll do 10-minute break. So hang out, smoke them if you got them. I'll be back. 10 minutes, we'll get going. All right. Monkey Man, I missed your message earlier, so hopefully you're still here. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. All right. So, let's get to, we'll do these as labs, so we'll do these like this. Throw that right there. I'll leave the timer down and out of the way. I'll pull this up here. Boom. All right. Throw this over here. All right. Finish out your break if you want, and maybe we'll do it like this because I don't want it to. I kind of want to go down through it as we see them. Because I kind of don't want it to spoil. Not spoil like you want to get it. I think spoil like it'll ruin a little of the mystery, right? So as we ask ourselves questions, we'll be able to kind of understand what's going on. So yeah, we'll do it like this. And this will be Killer Coda. And we'll actually go to this lab here in a second. I kind of want to see something while we're hanging out here. So while we're waiting for a minute, we can go look at the one cool little thing I get out of Killer Coda. Killer Coda's free, but we do get to see how many people have started or run through scenarios. So June, we did not have nearly as many scenarios as we did back in May and all the way back in April. But if we do a lot of the labs, because it doesn't count when I go in my own labs, it only counts when you guys do. So I will show you guys some labs and give you guys the option of doing them with us. And they're free, so that's kind of a nice price. Free 99. All right. So take the rest of your break. You got 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes, and then I'm getting back to it. As I'm going, if you have questions, just feel free to yell. But there's not really any yelling online, so you just got to do an exclamation mark ask. And if you ask me a question that way, it'll let me know. Let's just suffice it to say that. It'll let me know that you want to talk to me. So, give another minute and then we're going to go. Pop myself back on here. There I am. I'm back on camera. And we got 2 minutes left. Throw that up there. Our first lab will be right here. So if anybody would like to do this lab with me, here it is on the Twitch side of things, and here it is on the YouTube side of things. Labs are free in Killer Coda. It doesn't cost you nothing. They don't charge you. I think you just have to have an email. If you have Google, it'll just Gmail federate right to your access. I don't even think they send me emails. I've never even seen them try to sell me anything. So I think it's a pretty good deal all in all. So. All right. Give it 1 more minute for people to come back from their break, and then we're going to go. As we're doing our labs, we want to think through the questions that we see down here. So this will be our what a Linux admin needs to know about security. So if I were taking notes about this, right, if I were the type of person who was trying to get into the industry, I would be taking notes on this by probably writing at the top of my Obsidian, or I like Notepad++ or OneNote. I don't care what notepad tool you use. You could do pretty nice markdown in VS Code. I know people that use VS Code for notes. I don't have any problem with whatever tool you guys want to use. You could probably do notes. Actually, you could do notes directly into a GitHub if you wanted to. So if you only had a web browser and didn't have anything else, and I'm pretty sure there's extensions for Obsidian and web browsers too. So anyways, my point is there's no excuse not to have some type of note-taking tool open if you wanted to get good at this stuff. If you were like, I'll just hang out with this guy and listen to the lo-fi music, sure, you do that. If I'm doing that, I'm going to watch video games or something. All right, so let's do this. What does the Linux admin need to know about security? So this lab starts off like this. And I've done this lab with you guys a lot, but the stuff on the bottom right is like questions that we want to ask ourselves, almost like that Socratic Linux learning, where we say, do I know how to do this and do I know how to do that? So we're going to go through these things, and then we're going to think about things that we know about Linux and the types of things that we're going to run into in our career. So your security operations team has informed you that an alert for unknown users has gone off for your Node 01 instance. So you've got a control plane and a Node 01 instance. So good, that's a good thing to know about your environment. You got these two systems. And it says right here, connect to the other server, Node 01, and look at the appropriate log to determine login attempts. So somebody's trying to log in or do something dumb to your system. Add the usernames into a file called root users, so you've got to figure out what's going on, and then add the number of attempted logins to a file called root attempts. Okay, so we SSH Node 01, we already did that. And then now it says tail 20 var log auth.log. So, right here, we see in here, Node 01 has a failed password for invalid user suspect 3. We see a suspect 2. We see a suspect 1. And then if we scroll down, we also see real user. That's weird. So there's a suspect 1, suspect 2, suspect 3, and a real user. So there's 4 users that have logged in or attempted to log in one time each on the system, and it's generated these logs. We can look for invalid on varlog authlog and see suspect 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's our invalid users. And if we go back to control plane, we can grab that information and throw it in a file. So if we cat root users, there's the users, suspect 1, 2, 3, and 4, and real user. And then we'd echo 4 into root attempts. And that just put the number 4 in that file because that's what our lab is checking for, that we have the right answers of this is what's going on in our system. All right, so over here on the right, it says, here's our question to ourselves. Do we understand where we go and check for user alerts on logins? So if a user was having a problem logging in, or a user was trying to log into a system that they shouldn't, so either a user messing up that should be in your system but is doing it wrong, that's one reason to go look in these files. Another one is users are not supposed to be, or somebody's just scanning your system and trying to log in with password spray and trying to get in. Maybe they even know a real user on your system possibly, or they've guessed, they've surmised based on mappings that they've done with the version of OpenSSH or whatever. There's a bunch of ways that we can figure out what an operating system is, right? So where do we check for user alerts on logins? Well, in Ubuntu systems, it's varlog auth.log. That's where any user actions are going to go. And then in RHEL, in Red Hat Enterprise Linux, or Rocky or any of the derivatives, it's going to be down in varlog secure. Those are the default places. Now, I say then, how do we check that configuration for login? So how, if I didn't know that, how might I learn that? Like you just dropped me in, you airdropped me in on a Linux box I've never seen before. Maybe you guys put me in one of those Arch systems. I've never even been in Arch Linux. I think I've built it once or twice messing around over the years, over like the last 20 years. But I've never used it, right? So where would I know? Now I can just go look in var log and then just watch things, sure. But what if I didn't even know it was that? Well, the way your system is doing logging typically is through our syslog. So if I can verify that, right? I can say system ctl grep for our syslog, and I see that there's an rsyslog service. It probably is running. I can go check on that stuff. But if there's a configuration for etc rsyslog, there's a .conf file that might have some information for us, but this one is very generic in here. So this doesn't have it. But down in etc rsyslog.d, which is the directory .d, what we call the .d directories, they are always appended to the end of general configuration files so that we don't have to modify the original configuration file, which could be changed with upgrades. The .d directory is, I don't want to say it in a weird, oh, it's a sacred place, but what it is it's a place that we can change on our own systems that should not be updated with changes to the normal system files, if that makes sense. Where that stems from is back in the day with when you'd be setting up Apache and you'd be down in your http.conf file and stuff. What would happen is you would make modifications, and then when you patched or updated, it would blow all your modifications away. So we stopped modifying that file directly and started modifying the .d directory files most of the time. It also, by the way, it makes automation super easy, because like if I want to add sudoers, I add them down in Etsy sudoers.d directory as their own file names with all their file permissions and user permissions, and I never have to affect the actual sudoers file. I do have to make sure it's correct, because if it's not correct, it'll break the whole process. But anyways, let's go look in here. What's in here? There's this 50defaults.conf. What's going on in there? Ah, look at all this. All the user stuff is going here. Oh, auth and auth priv. So anything that has to do with auth into the system or auth privileges is going into varlog authlog. Good. And where is varlog syslog? Or varlog. Where's that last one? Where's that other one? Should be a catch-all in there. Kern mail. I don't see where syslog is, but syslog is defined in there somewhere. We can go look for it or whatever. So, Inspector, you said, oh yeah, I tried to log into new streamer 1. It's still rejecting your key. Yeah, I know exactly what it is, Inspector. I've never slid that other server in place. So, yeah, over here. Remember we built a server that could handle that? Oh, we built a server that could handle that connection. And that one still sits over here. So the Bastion server still needs to slide in place and get rid of P01 Jump 01. I just haven't gotten rid of that server yet. So the decommission process will probably wait until after I get back. But yeah, that's what the problem is the Mac the Mac hashes are too my version's too old. So I have to move the other one in place. So we have a brand new piping hot server from last month ready to go. I just haven't moved it in place yet. So, Inspector, I will get that done. I will probably say like the weekend of the 19th and 20th. I'll do that. I'll do that after I get back, because I'm not going to do it. I could do it while I was down in Mexico. I can jump into my home systems and flip them and all that stuff. That's not the type of work you want to do remotely, though, right? Because if there's no hands in the data center, then you're dead in the water until you get back. So, yeah, we'll make that. So we're going to, after this version of the course, I'm going to make that the official method anyway. So I'm going to get that. I'll get that hooked up. Because I want to make that the official method, because that way of getting into the system is much more of the way that I want people to get in the future. Which, do I have that drawn out here? Yeah, I don't know. I don't even have that in here. No, I don't have that in here. All right. Yeah, but we'll get that one slid in. We'll get that process done. You guys gotta remember, things happen really slowly around me because I'm super lazy, and I don't want to do them. So I built that whole box out. We did it on stream a few weeks ago. I just haven't done all the rest. So, all right. So if you were doing the lab with me, guys, then what you would find is that we've got our validation successful. We know where user alerts happen. They're varlog authlog or varlog secure, depending on what type of OS we're using. And we know where we would go check that, which is Etsy rsyslog, because typically rsyslog is configured to send the logging within the system, right? And then we might say, what is an invalid user? So what does it mean if I SH to node 01 and I do ID for suspect 1 or what was it, real user? Those are not real users in my system, neither of those. And it kind of goes without saying, but I'm going to say it every time anyways. Just because one is called real user and the other ones are called suspect does not have any bearing on whether or not they're incorrect users. I should not just go give real user access to my systems just because it sounds trustworthy. What if one of the usernames that attempted to log in was grandma? And I go, well, grandma sounds trustworthy. Oh man, I remember grandma's cookie, right? Like start doing all that shit and then I just let people in. That would be silliness, right? So the username is irrelevant. We need to go check back with the security team. So we found out from our security team that the one user that is supposed to exist is real user. Okay, they got a good name. But all the other users are not supposed to be there, so we need to do something about that, right? So create a real user account on both systems, ensure that root can log in as that user, and then I say this might not be the way we always do it in the enterprises, but understanding the pieces is good for us, right? Your user's root, you should give them access. Yeah. So we're going to check on this system, and we'll see that there is, we're on node 01. Let's get off node 01. ID real user. There is a real user on control plane, but there is no real user on node 01. So we need to add that user. So we can do it like this. In Ubuntu, you need the -m for it to create the home directories and do all those other fun things. In enterprise Red Hat systems, that's typically, that's not needed. It's already going to do it for you. And those are definable within the etc defs, etc login.defs file. You can login.def. Yeah, login.def should be able to set that up for you, right? So then now we have that user. So I should be able to grep like a username, so real from etc passwd. I see that user. I can do an ID real user. I can SSH to node 01 and send the command ID for real user, and I see that that user's over there. Now they happen to be the same UID, but that's actually not super relevant to us if we're using two systems that are completely different. It's not super relevant. Now, if they were sharing a storage backend, that becomes much more relevant. And I will tell you, one of the big enterprise challenges, and it's one of the things that we typically will use inside of LDAP, is we'll ensure that the system is having POSIX compliance numbering for user IDs, and then we'll set those user IDs up in like the 50,000 range, so they're way out of the way, and then we will allow Active Directory to give our users user IDs. And then when people come into our systems through tools like SSSD, which will connect, and then Oddjob will be making the home accounts and that kind of stuff, then it'll use the proper user ID that's assigned by the company, like by our Active Directory, not something that's arbitrarily assigned by the login.defs file, right? So there's that. Fisherman, how's it going? Are you still staying busy? I think I posted one of your blogs the other day in the Discord. I'm pretty sure I did that. A little 3-minute one. All right, so yeah, normally we wouldn't do this next part, but let's SSH over to node 01 and give them a password. And I'm just going to give them a super safe password like 1234 and 1234. And now that user has a password over there. I'm going to exit back over here to node 01 and or out of node 01, and I'm going to SSH over there, and I'm going to do something I normally wouldn't do. I'm going to wipe their varlog auth.log file. I want nothing in there. It's probably generating some logs now, but nothing from before. And I'm going to rerun this script that we have, which will take about 25 seconds or so, and that's going to generate all those messed up messages again of users trying to log in and have problems. Yeah, I have over 50,000. At one point, that's actually funny. At one point in our Discord history, well, not even Discord history, one time in my server history, I was approaching 1 million banned IPs in my system. At one point, if some of you guys recall back then. And then I needed to unblock somebody, and I couldn't find their IP, so I just blew them all away. And I was like, screw it, we'll let them fill back up. And they've filled up very slowly since then, because I think sometimes bots will move on, botnets will move on. They'll stop. Like they have some come back around and recheck maybe a year later or something. But plus, I'm pretty sure since that, my IP address has changed on my external router. So I only know that because we had some networking problems when it first changed, especially around my DNS. My DNS and my DDNS are pretty stable, but when they change too much, it can cause problems. Yeah, Fisherman, yeah, the YouTube video, yeah. The feature was released and took marketing that long to post. Yeah. It probably took a long time because they were probably jumping through all the hoops and stuff. So, actually, I need to start touching base with all the people that are coming to talk in August. So I need to start getting all their stuff up. You guys should watch, if you're in the Discord, you guys should watch for... We've got these events coming up, And don't let this fool you where it only says like 30 people, 30 and 40 or whatever, 23 and 40. This'll have a few hundred people at it at least. Last year we had a huge amount of people and we were only a quarter of the size. We'll break Discord if we can. I want to see if we can break one of those damn voice channels. But we got a bunch of different speakers, so you'll start seeing the speakers and their topics showing up in here. I'll start making all these. And the reason I thought of that, Fisherman, was because Sending, I think, is coming to talk to us again. And Sending works at the same place he does. Let me see, because I know I have a good list, but the times are wrong. So when I get the times up in there, guys, the times will be correct in your time zone. Let me go look at the conferences real quick. Who I have coming. Yeah, this is the correct people, but the times are a little off. So it's me, Tom, that's my brother Tom. Salty Catfish is coming. I haven't talked to him in months, so hopefully he's coming back. And then Control Bait, Sending Grounds, and King Buns. So everybody's coming. We just need to get a few more. Yeah, Inspector. Yeah. The newer bots can't connect on those. Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. So we're doing the lab, right? And the lab isn't the only thing we're doing. We're actually over here asking ourselves questions. Do we know what an invalid user is? Do we know how to test for an invalid user in our system? Yeah. And that's invalid, not invalid. Although, I guess it's similar in this case because they can't do anything. But yeah, we could check ID. We can look in the etc passwd file, but that's what all the tools use for mapping is that file. So that's good. How do you add a user? Like, do you know how to, I mean, if you've never added a user to Linux, do you know how to do it? This is the kind of more modern way right here. But you could technically go to the bottom of your etc passwd and add a user entry. You could do that yourself. Then you have to go add one in etc group. And then typically you can then either generate or go add one in etc Shadow as well, right? Typically I would tell you to just use a tool like UserAdd and let it do it all for you. But you can go look at, there's 4 files that are called the etc, or they're called the shadow files in a system. It's etc passwd for all the user mappings. That's readable by everybody. It's etc group, right? Groups, yeah, groups. I always mix that up. Yeah, it's group. I always forget if it's group or groups. etc group is another one, and those are readable. And then etc Shadow is not readable by anybody. The only thing that can read Shadow is the pluggable authentication modules. The PAM modules should be able to read that. And then the etc G Shadow. Those are the 4 of what we call the shadow files, right? So how do you set a real user password? You can just use the passwd option and set a user password like we did. And then one thing that might be useful, we go over to node 01 and we do we can do a chage-l on real user, and it'll tell us information about the password. If it's been set, when it was last changed, which happened to be today. So we know it has been changed, and by changing it, it was set. So we know that it was last set here, right? So this is saying, how do you set it? How do you know that it was set? Well, you know it was set because it was set, right? By definition, setting it is going to prove that it was set, right? It's passwd group shadow and G shadow. G shadow is the last one. Yeah, it's called the G shadow file. I don't even know if it's on all systems. These should be readable, world readable. This should not be readable. And then that should not be readable either. And I don't know all the functions that G Shadow fulfills, but I know some cluster managers that I use the G Shadow to validate that the shadow hasn't changed. I don't know if that's what they're all for, and you could probably find a man on G Shadow. Right, there's probably a man on what this does. The shadowed information file must be readable by regular users if password security is to be maintained. Yeah, it must not be readable. Yeah. and then it has all the information that's in there. But I don't know where this grew out of. I don't know where G-Shadow grew out of. I just know where tools that I use and play with it have it. Yeah. So it is sometimes fun to add users. Like if you got a test system, add users, see where that username shows up within your different system files and that kind of stuff. That's a fun little thing. Then we come down to the next question that kind of we ask ourselves is, how would we lock the user? If we needed to lock this user so nobody could get in, we saw that we could see what the user had done, but did you know you can do a passwd-l on real user and it'll lock that user? That user you can't become that user anymore. Oh, sorry. We just do su-real user. Oh, we're not supposed to be able to come. I guess we can, but the system won't allow the user to log in. And then we can unlock the user account, right? And then we would see that it was set. So I think we reran that file. Pretty sure we did. Yeah, we reran that script. Good. So we should be able to go in here and look again, and we'll only see invalid suspect 1, suspect 2, and suspect 3. Even though real user had a problem logging in when we ran that script, he's not an invalid user now. Now he's a real user, he's just not able to get in there. So kind of an important thing to think about as we do our system. Also, Fisherman, you got here a little late. I don't know if you saw, I just republished the book. So the ProLUG Labs book, I spent the first hour of this going through and making sure all the updates were good and that kind of stuff. And then I'm thinking I'm supposed to, I think, maybe I never bought the book so I don't have it, but I think everybody that's ever bought the book should get an update. Actually, let me text the guy that's always testing for me, my friend Jared. Let's see, did he... All right. So that's good. It's like King James Version, yeah. No, it's newer than the year 1611. That's for sure. All right. So the real user is now set up when we want to key root to log in as that user. So we're going to jump back and make sure that we're on our system. So we'll exit here. And we'll say ID, actually let's clear this up, ID, who am I, and PWD. So we're in root's home. Let's go to .ssh in here. And here's the files that we have. We can see some information about the keys and the key files and that kind of stuff. But we're going to generate a key for the root user and push that key over for the real real user and allow us to log in as that user with no password. That's what we're going to do. So let's do an SSH keygen, and we do not want to overwrite the key that we have. That is the key that we have, which is actually interesting. It's not the key that we have. We're using a key that's probably been a cluster key for a long time. So we could technically use this one, but we're not. We're going to use this other one, which gives a name to it. And we're going to say root .ssh. So in the directory we're in, real user RSA. So this is going to be the private key name of the file. We're not going to give it a passphrase. We're fine. It's going to generate 2 keys. So it's going to generate a private key, and being private necessitates a 600 permission, right? That's a 600. And then the public version of the key that can be read by anybody in all the world is a 644, which is necessary for public key operations, right? Public keys, though, in the sense of SSHing into a box, a public key is much more analogous to a lock because it goes on the system that we're going to allow the access in. And if you guys heard earlier, if you were around when Inspector was talking about, hey, I've sent you my key, but I still can't get in, it would be like, have you guys ever seen one of those, like on the farmland, they have those locks that have like 5 different locks, and as long as you open your lock, it'll open the gate? Have you guys ever seen those? There's these cool little contraptions that everybody can have their own lock, but you only have to unlock one of them and it'll open the gate still. They're pretty cool little contraptions if you've never seen one. Well, that's what the idea of this is if I have your public key and I put that in my system as an authorized key, then anybody that has your private key, which damn well should only be you, shouldn't be sharing your private key with anybody, not even once ever. That's going to then allow connection back into me, because you're really connecting to the lock that I've given access to, right? I always use that example of like, it's if any of you guys have ever seen a realtor open up a house to show a house, realtor doesn't have a key to that house. Realtor's got a key to a box on the outside of that house, and that drops a little key out, and that gets them in the house. Then when they're done, they take that key, they put it back in the box, and they lock it back up. That's kind of analogous to how your lock works. Not exactly, but it's similar enough. But that's the way that I kind of think of it. So now let's push the public version of this key over to node 01 using a tool. We used to do this by hand and it wasn't super fun. We'd SCP it over and then move it down and stuff. This is way easier nowadays. Now we just use a tool called copy ID, SSH-copy ID, and we're going to copy that key over, right? And then we need to know the password. So for the first time to get in, we need to know the password, which will be that 1234. And now if that works, I should be able to say, even though I'm the root user, right? If I do an ID, I'm still root over here. But I'm presenting the key as though I'm this real user to go over to node 01. And then I say, what's the name of the box I'm on, which should be node 01, and what's my name as my identity when I'm over there. Like, it'd almost be like one of those, computers, and you use a key card and it says, welcome, Mr. Johnson, and you're not Mr. Johnson, you're Mr. Blue or something, I don't know. So now we're going over there and it thinks I'm real user. Technically on that system I am, but I jumped in from root on this box. But I kind of gave up my identity when I crossed that threshold to that other machine, because on that machine I can do everything the real user can. I cannot do anything that root can do. Not on that box. I have to come back to my box and be me again. It's almost like, I did not like this movie, but very much like an Avatar thing, right? Like this is you wearing your little Avatar suit or whatever. Mr. Smithers. Thank you, Warden William Smithers. Also, kind of funny, you guys might notice me bouncing more than normal. I've got my chair over there. I got one of those like little bouncy ball chairs. I guess they're kind of like yoga balls, and then they're inside of like this is like under like a heavy duty thing. And I've been sitting on this thing for like a week now, and I think it's great. I don't know. I've heard people say like, oh, they're really hard to sit on. They work your abs and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I really like it. I can feel my legs and my abs though, but like, I'm a wrestler, so I'll just sit here all day, even if it hurts. Right? Like, if I can make it through a whole day of like wrestling practice, I should be able to do that still. But no, I can definitely feel like the my abs and my core and stuff from sitting on this damn thing, and I think it's pretty good. But I've just been doing it like 8 hours a day. Well, 8+ because I don't really get off my computer at night, so I'll just kind of sit here all day. And then, so if you see me bouncing, I'm not like one of these guys that bounces on these things, but I definitely move around on them more than I did in my chair. So if any of you are wondering, like, I don't see the chair back there anymore, like, what's going on here? Yeah, I'm a fitness influencer. Yeah, we'll have my abs on stream one of these days, Fisherman. I'll have to like pan the camera wide to catch it all. Yeah, it's like a yoga ball thing. It's like I just saw one of these ones. It's got like a hold on. It's like this. So it's like got like a fabric thing on it. So I don't know. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. I can make it work. Yeah. This is your chair now. Yeah. I'm doing the meme. Except my beard is almost that gray, but it's not nearly as thick. So I'll never be a full Unix admin because I'll always just have to be like a patchy bearded Linux admin instead. So, and they are different. Like Unix admins get mad if you ask them if they're Linux admins. I know from early on in my career. I'm like, you guys do Linux too? And they're like, but anyways, all right. So we pushed the key over. We did all those things. Look at us doing that. How do we unlock the account? Then I asked a little bit about how would we set like the password complexity rules? Where are those set in a system, right? So we can come over here and we can cat etc pam.d system. I don't know why I don't see that in here. Oh, because we're not on a Rocky box. We should have, if we don't have a system auth, we might have, Ubuntu's a little different. For sure, we have our SSHD, which might have some of those pieces of information in here. And then if there were any password quality rules, they might be in here as well. And under Etsy security, do we have a PAM or a password quality file? And now in here, we can set some system-wide password configuration limits in here. So it's a little bit different, and we don't have the Etsy pam.d system auth, but we do have some of this other stuff. When we were learning this, right, when we were setting this all up for people in the security engineering course, there's a really good, if you're like, hey, I don't understand PAM, I struggle with it a little bit, one of my favorite places to point people to are the Rocky docs. So in the Rocky documentation, so Rocky Linux, if you wanted to read up and understand about how like pluggable authentication modules work, I think this is a really good place to at least start. So Linux was the squares. It's actually funny. Yeah, when I was at Lockheed Martin, man, there were some people that would like, they'd be willing to try to throw down anyways. They were mostly like weak engineers that weren't going to give me any problems, but they would try, you know, maybe. But anyway, so can we generate a key pair? Yeah, we know how to generate an RSA key pair. We just did it with SSH keygen. You guys, you can play with that command. We only did it once, just messing around, right? So SSH keygen will do so many things for you. We only touched like a tiny little bit of the options. Look at all these options here. And one of my favorite things, if you're ever looking at a man page nowadays, almost always after you get past reading the descriptions and you know the number of the bit length and the number of iterations of passes you want for a key and all that kind of stuff, there's all kinds of things you can set in a key. Typically at the bottom of most man pages, they will show you some examples. Like if I want to do this type of generation, if I want to do certificate generation, if I want to do, they'll give you examples of a bunch of stuff. And typically they'll show where it's going to try to write to and what the context is of these different things. And then a lot of man pages will send you off to other man pages in case you're like, oh, I read that thing that there's a way to generate using moduli for the key. I don't know what that is though. And then you go and you read about it and you're like, oh, that's the Diffie-Hellman way of doing. Okay, and Etsy SSH moduli contains all the prime numbers for SSHD to work properly. Okay. I think I can at least start to figure that out a little bit, right? I might not know what it all means, but I can at least come in here and start to play with it, right? Get a better understanding and a grasp of it. Maybe watch it work in operations a little bit. Has Rocky Linux docs become the Arch Linux wiki of the RHEL stuff? I like them, Mint. Like for showing newer people around, I think Rocky docs are actually pretty good. And a lot of stuff that I do is, yeah, this one's moduli instead of modulo. Yeah. Typically we think of modulo when we're talking about like the operator to round things off, right, and get the remainders. Yeah, I use modulo when I'm talking about remainders, right? But yeah, this is moduli. Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah. So there we go. Okay. So then we said we were looking at our keys a little bit, right? All of them should be down in here. And this directory should not be readable by people outside of my user. And inside of here, do we understand why a private key is sitting at 600 and a public key is sitting at 644? Like we can see that that's the case from when I first wrote this up and was doing this, and we can see it's the case from when we just made it. But do we understand why that is? Now, if you say, Scott, I don't even know what those permissions are. Well, then we got to go work. We got to go do a little bit of remedial work, right? Maybe I'm going a little further along because I know some people. Typically when people want to talk security, they know some of this basic stuff. But by the way, there's good write-ups on the Rocky Linux docs for how permissions work if you struggle with permissions. I would tell you one of the main ways to get good at permissions is go kind of look at them, have somebody explain it to you in whatever way works best for you to understand, and then just start using them. And I think that's how most of us learned them, right? So, yeah, it's easy to get distracted, Mint. Yeah, I get distracted all the time. So, yeah. If we need to troubleshoot key files, how would we do that? Well, if the user set the private key to open, you'll see weird messages. Like if I took this key right now, right? So we know this command will go over there, right? This command right here would jump over there and do that. But what if I went like this? What if I said, for my private key, I said chmod 644 on real user RSA, and then now see this is too permissive. If I try to use that key right now, SSH is going to be like, hey, buddy, I don't think that's going to work for me. Well, obviously you have to do something really, really dumb there and change a permission. But what if somebody had a practice of like doing a chmod 644-R in like people's home directories or something? One, that would be really bad practice. But two, this is now we're falling back. We couldn't load the key. We're falling back to a password. I don't know the password, let's say. I'm some other user coming in. So now we got to go set that back. Because you might say somebody would never do that. Somebody would never do that on purpose, guys. Doesn't mean that shit's not going to happen. Your users are going to do the weirdest shit you've ever seen in your life. And you're going to be like, I don't even know how this user got stuck like this. Anybody ever seen when Homer got his hand stuck? He's got his arm, like his arm's like this up in the vending machine. And they're about to cut his arm off. And he goes, is it going to hurt? And he's like, no. And he's like, but it'll grow back, right? And the guy's like, yeah. And he's about to saw Homer's arm off. And Dr. Hibbert goes, wait a minute. Wait, Homer, are you just holding on to the can? And he goes, your point being? And then the next scene is him rubbing his arm and everybody laughing as he like runs out of the room. That's how I feel like with users. Users are going to get themselves in the stupidest things and the silliest scenarios you ever saw. And the whole time it's going to be like, are you just holding on to the can? Like, how did you get yourself in this situation, right? Like a raccoon, yeah, all they have to do is let go of the shiny thing. They won't let go of the shiny thing. 100%, it's like a raccoon in a trap. If you guys have ever seen how you catch a raccoon, you put the sticks down in the hole and then you just put something shiny in there. And they'll stick their hand in, they'll close it, and they won't be able to pull it out. And they will never think to let it go. That's how you catch a raccoon. Which I guess is good eating. I don't know. I've never eaten raccoon. But, I mean, if you were hungry enough, you'd probably eat raccoon, I imagine. But, all right. So that's the whole first lab. But there's a lot of stuff in the lab to do. But then there's a lot of stuff to kind of in these notes. By the way, these notes are all up in the Discord, too. So if somebody was like, hey, can I get a hold of those security labs? If you go jump up into meeting notes, and then you got to go up a little bit. Pet raccoon that would always be hiding his keys. That's actually really funny. Have to have like a little thing to alert you where your keys are. Hold on. If we go up just a little bit, I'm pretty sure I got all these security questions up here. Yeah. So this is what an admin needs to know about a service. Hold on. I think I have a security one of these. Security, that's golden image stuff. Yeah, this is the, it's from 130, so it's back, 130 is January 30th of this year. So we were just doing these as we went. So the next one will be attempted sudo access. So anyways, if somebody's like, hey, can I get all these notes? Yeah, they're up in the Discord. Just go to meeting notes, go up to January 30th. And then while I'm talking here, if you do !ask, you can ask me anything. Just put it in there, and it'll alert me. And you can also, if any of this stuff's useful to you, or you're like, oh, that's kind of cool, I had never seen that before. If you do an !clip, it'll clip it for me, and then I know what people find interesting. And that should work on either side, by the way, not just Twitch. I have that set up for YouTube as well. So, all All right, so that took us almost, I don't know, another 40 minutes or so. So let's go do another lab. So I'll link this lab to anybody that wants to do it with us. And the thing on this lab will be, what happened was the user has decided, or some users have decided to try to sudo up in the environment. And I always kind of tell people, like, you might think that sudo is always going to be associated with some kind of, malicious thing. And it's not. You're actually going to have, if you work with devs enough, your devs are going to try to sudo all the time. They're going to try to sudo for valid reasons, for permissions that they think they should have. And they may be right in some cases and they might be wrong in others, right? But the point is, sudo is not just a, slap them on the hand for trying to do it thing. It is much more of a, it alerts us to a problem in the system where, because, right, if you think about it, you've got perfect security on one side where nobody can do anything. Only the processes can run. And then you've got perfect access on the other side, which is not great because now everybody can read everything and everybody can get it everywhere. We got to find a balance between those. If we're going to let a user on a system that we're root on, well, when we're root, we have full access to everything. But a user doesn't have full access, but maybe it's their system. Maybe they are supposed to have permissions to restart HTTPD. I mean, in their own dev environment, should they maybe have that permission? Probably. Should they have permission to add software libraries through pip or something? Maybe not. But maybe down in like a dev environment, sure, but not in test or QA because it's locked in by the time it gets there. So my point is there's all these things that can kind of be use cases that you've never even thought of. And then teams are going to come to you with these problems, and they're going to be like, Mista, help me with this. And you're going to have to... You have to figure out that joke too. That's an old joke of mine. But cube with no network policies. Yeah. Yep. All right. So let's go over here. Let's look at this. And it says your security operations team has informed you that there's an alert for sudo activity that's happening on a server. You're going to go investigate those logs and see what the system's trying to do. See what the user, see what the process is trying to do. And see what's kind of going on. Wait, hold on. I might have missed something, Mint. Yeah. No, I've definitely used Cube. I don't know if you had linked something for like Istio or something. When I heard full mesh. Yeah. So, okay, so what's happening on the system, right? So logging might take a few, seconds, so we can let this run while we talk here, and you can just sleep for 60 seconds. But this is the idea that if you were going to start the lab super fast and weren't going to give it a second to generate the first log messages, you might not see anything. So we're just going to wait a minute. We'll let the 60 seconds run. It was probably over 60 seconds by the time I hit that button. But let's see. So we're going to check the logs here where Ubuntu keeps sudo requests. And again, it might take up 6 seconds to populate, but we've got a process that's going to try to do things that it's not supposed to do on this box. So we'll give those 60 seconds, and then we're going to go look at var log auth log, and we know from the earlier lab why it's being written there. Our syslog told us that. But let's let that long 60 seconds go by. And then now we tail var log auth log, and we see that there were some password problems. And then we see bad user is not in the sudoers file. That's a very common message that we'll see. User not in sudoers file. And then it tells us what they were trying to do. They were trying to list out the contents of root's home. That might or might not be malicious, but that's something that they're not allowed to do. They're not allowed to sudo. And then down here, they try again to actually do a bin-su or su-, and they're trying to assume that's an assumption of root right there. That's trying to become the root user on a box. That's trying to get all the permissions and own the box completely. That is not something we're typically going to give a user to do. But for this lab, we're going to do it. But typically, I'm not going to give a user that. Even if their manager like yells at my manager and tells them to do it for me, I'm still not going to do it. Not definitely not in a prod environment. Maybe down in dev. Again, you got to balance, because here's the trade-off, right? Especially in a dev environment, they're doing dev, they're working late, maybe even have some offshore resources. Well, if they can't get into their servers and they can't do what they need to do, you're going to be getting trouble tickets and you're going to get called out in the middle of the night. So to avoid that annoyance, you may give them sudoers permissions. However, here's the problem. Once you do that, all of the configuration changes and those kind of things that happen to get that server working is now no longer captured by our team. So now what we tend to do then is when we go into prod, we give a subset of permissions, typically for deploy, or what's even better is they know exactly their deploy steps and then we write a deployer for them. Typically I'll write something in Ansible that deploys for them and it becomes part of a pipeline and we never touch it again for either of us. That's an assumption that there's a lot of stuff going on with people being able to keep track of what they did for changes. A lot of users are not going to keep track of those kind of changes like they should. A lot of devs and stuff like that. And you might say, most devs I know are pretty good. I'm not saying the devs you know aren't. I'm just going to tell you in aggregate, I've worked with many, many hundreds of devs teams over the years. And it's not always the case. Right? There are different levels of devs, right? There are different levels of maturity in engineering depending on where you go and that kind of stuff, right? So let's go look at syslog. Syslog also sees some messages in here, and we can grep bad user from all the logs. And here we see what he's trying to do. He's trying to get in. There's these cron jobs that are running. That's actually how we're running it, is from cron. But then we can go up here and we can see that he's also not in sudoers, and he's trying to do these things that he shouldn't be able to do. So he's trying to read root's home directory. He's trying to become root. It's not good, not optimal for us. That's not what we want to do as an engineer. So we see that bad user's not in sudoers. So again, somebody's trying to get some kind of elevated privileges because users don't have those privileges typically, and then we allow them to jump up. Jeff's trying to see if things will work. Sure, fair, yeah. But a lot of times when they're first putting in their libraries and all the things they need to get something running, if that's not captured, you're not going to be able to get, get it into a pipeline and stuff like that. Like if somebody puts Java on a machine but forgets that they were using Tomcat, and then you don't put Tomcat on a box, there's going to be a problem there. Which, excuse me, depending on the size of your Linux team, a lot of times for me, I'm the platform guy. I'm building up the system, but then there's a middleware piece in between there, and middleware are the ones that are focused on that application kind of up above, but before we get to the real devs. So like, I'm not necessarily concerned with anything more than maybe Apache being on there, and then the middleware team is tasked with maybe coming in and applying Tomcat and Tomcat configurations and stuff like that. And then a lot of times when they get that stuff dialed in, we'll just put it all in a pipeline and then have our builds all automated. So it's kind of the way it goes. Yeah. So we're gonna give them some permissions here, right? So we can go look at the cron tab for how that's running. Every 1 minute, this is what's happening in the environment. Bad users we're actually becoming bad user and doing bad stuff as root, but that's fine. Right, it still shows as bad user trying to execute permissions they don't have. So bad user is supposed to have those permissions they're trying to sudo to. We find that out from security. We maybe have a powwow with them, and they're like, hey, we just need these permissions to get this thing. Here's our use case. And you say, okay, we're going to give you those permissions on your dev boxes so that you can get what you need to done. We can deconflict this, sure. Again, that SU dash, and you're giving them the whole box, so you never know how. Typically, if I did that to somebody when they go to give me that box, that server back later, I'm gonna be like, ooh, brother, ooh, I don't want that nasty box that you were root on. I'm just gonna go ahead and take it like this and throw it in the trash can and give them a new one. I'm not ever gonna touch that server again. I'm definitely not gonna try to make it into another dev box. We're just gonna throw that thing away. But anyway, so let's go here. There's many ways to give sudo permissions. Let's look at one way that you might do it. So we'll cat the etc sudoers out. And in here, there's ways to give permissions to all. So here's how root is given all permissions in your system. And here's how the group admin is given all admin permissions, all root permissions. But then you can also have a sudo group. So this is for the group. If you're in the group sudo, you would have these permissions. And then maybe we come down here and we do a user mod dash a-g. Before I do that, though, I'm going to show you guys an awesome command I love. It's sudo -l -U bad user. And very quickly, you'll see bad users and he's in no condition to do anything. He's not allowed to run sudo commands. We're going to put him in the group sudo right here, which should then give him all permissions. So the bad user may run the following commands on Ubuntu. He can do everything now. But he still can't log in. He still doesn't have permissions he doesn't have a password yet. We got to give him a password so he can actually sudo correctly. So we can look him out of Etsy group. Bad user is still the original primary group, but now the bad user has been appended to the end of the sudo line. So now he is in the sudo group. That's all that user mod did, is it added us into the subgroup, or the secondary group is what they're called. They're not subgroups, they're secondary groups, right? So we come down here and maybe we wait a little bit. We can sleep 60 if we wanted to. I'll just sit here and talk for a little bit. And then we're going to go look at our logs and see if we have those errors anymore. We might still have the original errors and the permissions not able to be set, but we're not going to see the not in sudoers anymore. That's not going to be a real error anymore. Hey, thanks for the follow, Mendoza. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. You give it about 60 seconds here or so. I might need to get some new water or some more water here in a second. Drinking all these water bottles up while I'm sitting here talking to you guys. So we're doing labs, and what we're doing is we're finding errors. So what are two valid reasons you may see user not in sudoers group? User is attempting to do something they think that they should be able to. User is attempting to run a vendor script. That's actually a very common one. Like I was saying earlier about dev teams, they might just be doing something that the vendor told them to. That they're not malicious. Like they're not trying to take over your machine. Some devs are trying to take over your machine, guys. But some devs do treat an environment like it's a hackable thing, and sometimes you just gotta, remember Charlie Murphy and the Rick James? Rick James was a habitual line stepper. He'd step over a line and have to check him back over the line. That's how Charlie Murphy put it. He's like, I'd have to slap him back over the line, right? And then that's that whole story about 5 fingers to the face. Anyways, sometimes your users are trying to do bad shit, and sometimes they're not. But you can't really ever determine that, so you just have to maintain as good a lock on your systems as you can. And sometimes you do have to lax things because management tells you to. And sometimes you got to fight it out. And you want to, as an engineer, you want to express all of the concerns that are common to these things. And then you want to note that you've expressed those concerns, because then later when the management's like, those servers are all on fire over there because those guys did this, this, and this, then you can just start humming to the manager, too many cooks in the kitchen. I had one of our mods in Discord. I used to work with him. Actually, I worked with him 2 different times in my career. And whenever stuff would be all broken, like we'd all be working on stuff, and he'd come over our shoulders. He was a security guy, so he didn't really care about our problems in the server world. He'd just be doing security stuff, and he'd come over our shoulders and look at stuff, and he'd be humming too many cooks in the kitchen. Go look that song up if you want. It's very very apropos if you have a bunch of problems because there's too many admins, right? All right, so anyway, so we go look at varlog offlog, and now we're seeing errors, but we're seeing errors because of incorrect passwords now. We're not seeing those errors that we were seeing before. We're still seeing errors, but we're not seeing errors for not being in sudoers anymore. So let's go see if we can fix that. So if we can see that he's trying to do something still, but we didn't set his password yet. So let's fix his password. His password needs to be 1234 and 1234. and that's because that's what we're trying to do out of the sudo or out of the cron tab, right? And as soon as that happens, your lab's going to start working properly. Your lab's going to just allow him to do that sudo that he wants. So none of these errors are going to come up anymore either. So here's the problem. We've given all the commands. We did a, if we look real quick, in our sudoers, I'm thinking of cron tab because of the thing. We put the user in the sudoers, right? If we grep bad user, we see him in sudo, so he's got all. Right? Bad user's in there, he's got all permissions. That is not good security practice. There's a rule, it's ROLP, right? ROLP. Rule of least privilege. Rule of least privilege is the idea that you have all the permissions, but only the permissions that you need when you need them, right? The rule of least privilege is you're only supposed to use the permissions you need when you need them. And the way that I always explain the rule of least privilege is this, and this will be maybe visceral for some people, but that's good. It'll make it stick for you. If you guys know what I mean by visceral, you'll know here in a second. So you've got a sheriff in town. It's the Wild Wild West. Is that sheriff allowed to carry a gun? Yeah, he's the sheriff of the town. You guys ever seen a Western where the sheriff didn't have a gun on his hip? Or, sorry, in the industry, he's got some iron on his hip, right? Is there ever one where they're not? No? Yes. However, is he allowed to pull that gun out and while he's talking to anybody, talking about what a good day it is, talking about whatever niceties are going on, just have that gun pointed at your chest? Is that a little different? A little different, right? Look, you have the rule to do the thing. You could pull it out if you needed it, but you're not going to be like this all day, just like, hey, how's it going? You know, you're on your way to school and he's got this gun pointed at somebody. That would be asinine, right? That's the heart of the message of the rule of least privilege. The rule is that you should only be doing something at the level you need to, and then you pull out the tool that you need when you need to use it. So, you say, so should I be running around as root on a system? Technically not. Do most engineers do it? Absolutely. But you shouldn't be. You should only pull the tool out when you need it, right? Okay. You mean like running curl sudo bash install scripts and junk like that? Yeah, we don't want that to happen if we can avoid it for sure. So let's give this person less permissions. Now, they're still going to have a sudo or su dash, and that's still going to give them all permissions. I get that. However, we're still going to limit them down to only the things that they should have. Not having a gun was the sheriff's gimmick. It's not a very good gimmick. All right, so we're going to remove bad user, and we can look at his permissions. He's no longer allowed to do anything. We can see that he's no longer in the sudo group, and we're going to give him a very specific set of permissions by generating a file in etc sudoers.d, and in that file we're going to give the bad user the ability to, with no password, do ls root and user bin su dash. Those are the only two permissions they can do. The only two commands they can do as an elevated permission. Now you might say, wait, doesn't that just give you the permission to become root anyways? Yeah, it does. I get that. But for the purpose of the lab, we're still following what's called the rule of least privilege, right? And you'll never hear anybody call it ROLP or anything like that, but that's just what it looks. I've seen it written down ROLP, rule of least privilege, but nobody says that out loud like that, right? Just so everybody knows. So you might say, Scott, where did you get those paths from? Where did you get those paths for the full thing? Well, you can always do which will give you the full path to something on your system, so that's super useful. We can see that now we have, instead of earlier where we had the permissions to do everything, and then we had the permissions to do nothing, and now we've given ourselves via this one file the ability to do only these things. These files like this, you might say, okay, so if I had that bad user file, couldn't I just use like a tool like Ansible to just drop that in? Yeah. So now I can very quickly audit with Ansible all the permission sets across all my systems, and I can have the same base etc sudoers that never changes, but anywhere that had this, let's say this bad user existed on a set of like, like we have like a dev team that does a certain financial app. And that dev team has like these web servers that have like a certain name and they're tied back to like their dev group or whatever. I could very quickly with Ansible audit if there's an etc bad user anywhere else as a file in the entire company. I can also do that same sudo -su -u bad user as I do that and generate a report and say, okay, this bad user, it's a service account given from, and that's a terrible name, I know. Trust me, typically service accounts are like SVC underscore something, so it's really obvious that's a service account. But let's just say bad user made it through as a service account. That service account, we would then know, is only being used on those servers, has no permissions to get in anywhere or do any other permissions, can't laterally jump around in our environment and have more permissions than it should. I could do all that stuff very quickly with this methodology. This would be how, this would be beholden to us, how we built our system. This would be my way to validate that the user doesn't have any permissions anywhere else in the clusters or anywhere else in the 10,000 machines I'm maintaining or whatever, right? So there's a lot, right? There's a lot there for you guys to get into. Principle of least authority. That's fair. That's fair. I'm used to hearing it principle of least privileges, but principle of least authority is fine. Fair enough. But to me, the idea is you always have the authority. Like when I go to any company I'm ever in, and I sign my little non-disclosure agreement, and I sign my like understanding of like being an admin, I'm always like, from that time on, I'm an admin. If they need me to do something, I will go there and pull that trigger and do it. But I won't always pull the trigger. Like I'm always available to be an admin for somebody if they need. If I'm on contract with them, typically through my company, that kind of stuff. But it's not that I'm always in that role, right? It's only when I'm needed to do that. So because typically I'm doing engineering stuff, but we still do admin stuff. Look at you learning Linux. So how do we check the user permission? This is one of the most useful commands I can show you guys if you don't know it. That sudo -l-U and then the username, just so good for like just a quick, what can this user do? Or this user can't do anything. So quick little check on a system, what's the state of that system? If you had 30 nodes and you would run an Ansible playbook to push this everywhere, then you find out later some of the nodes were off. Well, one of the nice things about Ansible is you could just rerun it again and it would only change it where it needed to, but let's say you were on the last couple and you were just manually checking them or running like a loop over them. The sudo-l-U is like one of the best commands I've ever found for that, because it just drops in. Nope, can't use it, and then we would know that on those couple machines it wasn't set correctly, right? And then what do we mean by scope in the permissions? Well, in the original thing we gave all. And that was all because of the fact that in sudoers, because of the fact that you were in the sudoers group, which you were originally before we removed them, you had all permissions. Then we removed you from that group. We removed him from the group. And then now he could not run that anymore. He could not do any sudo activities, and then we gave you your own sudoers.d file, and then now you had just the permissions that you needed, right? That's kind of how that all maps out. All right. Now, next one would be like updating the golden image. We might get into that here. We might also just take it easy a little bit. Well, it's already 8:30. Geez. Main things to remember, I'm not going to be around after Thursday for about a week. I might hop on once when I'm down in Mexico. I don't know. I mean, I pay for the extra internet into the little place that we stay, but it's still not super great. So I probably won't stream. But if I did stream, I would probably just show you guys stuff from the home lab when I'm remote. because it's super easy to show you guys that stuff. I should be on tomorrow and the next night. I do have some academic stuff to work on, so I might just call it an academic stream. But we did get what we wanted to today done. We got the book pushed out. So the Lean Pub book got updated today, so that's good. Yeah. So we should be pretty good on all that stuff. I haven't really been hammering it too much today. I did allude to it a couple times, but we do have a Discord. You guys are welcome to hang out down in there. There's the Discord for people on the Twitch side of things, and there it is on the YouTube side of things. So you guys can hang out down there if you want. We have a fair amount of traffic. I thought it was kind of quiet in there today, but it's typically, you know, we're pretty popping. We got 20, 30 people maybe on any given day talking, so it's pretty okay. So ProLUG Con, yeah. We are doing that in August, so we are doing a big event in August. We are going to try to break Discord if we can. We'll see what we can do, but we'll figure it out. All right, let me go pop to where's my little end of stream thing here? There's my end of stream. I'm going to go ahead and stop the YouTube side of things first. I appreciate you